Welcome to the Luke Coutinho Show, where we can learn to reimagine our lifestyle.
Dr. Sudhir, welcome to Reimagine Your Lifestyle. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. I know how busy you are, but you've taken time out to be with us. And I have to tell you, I follow your work and I get so excited when I see a medical professional with the status that you have talking about sleep, talking about exercise, talking about lifestyle, because that just completes the whole picture. I mean, I practice integrative and lifestyle medicine. My patients, as I speak to you, are on pills. They will go in for chemotherapy tomorrow. But the point is that can save lives, that can make a disease better. But I love when you come and hit everyone out there with, hey, sleep, do this. And people are like, what? Medical doctor saying all of these things? So I love your fresh approach that you're bringing to medicine. So, I would do injustice introducing you. I would love for you to take us through your journey. Like, why neurology? Why, take us through your journey, your studies, all of the amazing accolades that you have. Let's start off with that, doctor.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. And it is my pleasure also to be on your show. And I also go through your Twitter posts and I have been amazed with the kind of work that you do. And definitely, I'm sure you have touched many lives and you'll continue to do so. And coming back to my own journey, so my medical education happened in a college called as Christian Medical College, Vellore, also known as CMC Vellore. It is one of the top ranked colleges. After AIMS New Delhi, it is ranked as number 2 most of the years. And I began my MBBS in 1989 there. After completing MBBS and internship, I also did MD in internal medicine and then DM in neurology from CMC Vellore. And I had finished my DM neurology by 2000. So after that, in the last 24 years, I worked for 4 years at CMC Vellore as a faculty. And for the last 20 years, I have been at Apollo Hospital in Jubilee Hills in Hyderabad. Now, that is my medical background. But as I gained years of experience as a doctor, internal medicine, and then as a neurologist, what I realized is that about 80 to 90% of diseases can be prevented. Now, most of the times in our medical curriculum, we are taught about the patients when the people become patients. So we are taught about symptoms, diseases, diagnosis, and the treatment, which is either by pills or by surgery. So these are the two ways of treating in medicine. But what I realize is that definitely, most of the non-communicable diseases can be prevented to a great extent, and that has to start in the beginning, even without the help of a medical doctor, because medical doctor, we have been trained in a way that if somebody comes, find the disease, give them medicines, and then say, okay, you take this medicine. And most of the medicines, as you know, for chronic diseases are almost lifelong. So that, in the last 3 4, or we can say more than 5 to 10 years almost, I started looking at other areas of what can we do without pills. And there I found the role of sleep, exercise, and diet. And I think they are the three main pillars of good health, which has a potential to prevent diseases, and even if somebody has got a disease, to control to a great extent. So that's my area of interest and hobby. But I feel my patients also benefit a lot from those. Rather than just if I had just given some pills and send them off, and then when I tell them these other things also, I see them getting better. So I spend a lot of time on that also.
Well, thank you for sharing that. When I spoke to one of your patients who is also on our program for their lifestyle, and she was diagnosed with vertigo. And when she saw that we follow each other and we were interacting on Twitter, she said, "Luke, you know what he told me? He's a medical doctor. He told me to sleep. He told me you need to sleep." And apparently, she said, "But what does that have to do with vertigo?" And you said sleep has everything to do with every part of your health. So just sleep deeply. And I was so happy to hear that kind of advice. And doctor, I've seen your tweets, really powerful. You're talking about sleep, 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 straight to the point, like you're prescribing it. Literally, you're prescribing it. And being a neurologist, I understand the importance of sleep on the brain. What are you seeing in our country right now amongst patients where sleep deprivation is increasing day by day? What are you seeing as the impact on patients who have neurological disorders from a preventive space, as well as your patients who are suffering?
Yes, thank you. Look, it's a very, very important aspect which you have touched upon. That is the sleep. And when we say sleep, people think, oh, it's so easy. We all sleep. So what is, where are we lacking? But if you look at statistics, and when I talk to patients in the OPD, almost more than 90% people do not get adequate sleep. So we have to understand what is adequate sleep, because people have got used to sleeping 5 hours and they feel that is normal. Or they quote some XYZ, some visionary, some great person who sleeps only 4 hours, and they say, oh, so and so sleeps only 4 hours, and he's so active. Why can't we be so active? See, there are individual variations. So we look at 90% of population or 95% of population. As an adult, we all require 7 to 8 hours of sleep at
Mhm.
nights. Now, if I classify normal sleep as that duration, out of 10, at least 9, or sometimes even all the 10 patients who I see in a day, they say, Doctor, you're joking. How is it possible to get 8 hours of sleep in today's world? Now, so that is the reality. It is not possible because of various factors. So people are working longer hours. The commuting time
Yeah.
has increased. Like you said, you stay in Bombay, you know the traffic there. And many times
Yeah.
people do not have the houses close to their workplaces. And then other things are mobile phone. So people routinely, before going to bed, they scroll websites for 1 to 2 hours, and it's addictive. And again, so there are various factors which lead people to sleep lesser for lesser duration. Now, if you look at the sleep deprivation, it can become a habit, because sometimes when you don't sleep for normal time, because sleep is also, it's a habit. And if we break that habit and a schedule, then even if someone has time, they don't get the sleep. And then they start coming saying that, doctor, I got insomnia, and then I need pills. So I think that we will discuss little later, the hazards of the sleeping pills. But as of now, so basically, if someone doesn't sleep properly for adequate amount of time, there can be short-term effects on the brain and there can be long-term effects on the brain, means adverse effects. If we look at the short term, like we know many children or many students who burn midnight oil, and they feel that by studying up to 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and then going through all the chapters in the last moment, they'll score 100% marks. But the neurological basis says that if we don't have a good sleep in the intervening night, the memory consolidation does not happen. So whatever we learn in the daytime, for it to become long term and stay in the brain, we need to sleep. So if somebody keeps on studying till 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning, and then he gets ready and 9 o'clock he goes for an exam, he will not remember whatever he has read the previous night. So it's totally futile. Other thing is, if someone doesn't sleep properly, it also increases the anxiety level. So sleeping, it relaxes our brain, it calms our mind. So we are in a better frame of mind, because exam is a stressful situation. Very few people say I love exams, and I feel happy to have more exams. Even though I was a good student myself, but I wanted to get away with the exam so that I can read better. So if you study under the pressure of examination, you are not able to grasp much. In that, if you don't sleep, anxiety and stress are high, and you can't perform, you can't write what you know also. So that is why, if a student doesn't sleep adequately, he can't do better in the exam. So they should have good sleep even during the exams or the few weeks preceding exams, for having good memory. And then if you look at the workers, somebody like a driver, many accidents happen, and if you interview them, there are two major factors. One is drunken driving. We all know drunken
Yeah.
driving, makes
Mhm.
our brain not function properly, and then sleep deprived drivers. So many
Mhm.
accidents happen by the drivers who are sleep deprived. And in every industry, whether it's aviation industry or train drivers or bus drivers, there is a rule, but are people following that?
Yeah.
So we know that we can lose concentration, attention, focus, if the sleep is duration is not adequate. So these are, and then people who have already have some diseases. Let's say I see commonly people with migraines and headaches. One of the commonest triggers for migraine headache is sleep deprivation. The person sleeps less one night and the next day they get headaches. And for that we know, and then for that they'll take a painkiller. For that the answer is not painkiller. Make your sleep normal, and then you don't get the headache, you don't need the painkiller. Somebody who has epilepsy, if they don't sleep, again sleep deprivation is one of the triggers for epileptic attacks. So I'm just mentioning, but almost all diseases, somebody is a diabetic, simple thing like diabetes, check their sugar next day. Hypertension,
Yes.
check their BP next day. So the blood sugar levels, BP levels, all are high after sleep deprivation. So these are all the short-term effects. If we look at the long term, suppose somebody routinely sleeps less. If we look at the brain, two main things. One is cognition, because we know that Alzheimer's disease and dementia are increasing. One of the factors can be lack of sleep also. So people sleeping less for several months to years, and then you are inviting dementia to come earlier than usual, or prevalence can be higher. And second is the mental disorders. We already know that depression, anxiety, stress are on the rise. People who sleep less, they have a higher risk of getting these disorders. So these are in a nutshell the
Yeah.
ill effects of sleeping less.
And I love how you spoke about that, because in today's world, especially, like, most people will drink late at night when they should be sleeping as per the circadian rhythm. Now they're drunk, driving, and they're sleep deprived. And I read about a few years ago that one of the leading causes of death in America, as per their data, was drunk driving and falling asleep at the wheel. And, I think with people doing a lot of long distance driving today, sleep deprived, that becomes a health hazard on the road as well. Doctor, you spoke about dementia, Alzheimer's. We absolutely see that, because we've been tracking data. We have patients with us who have been for 5 years, 8 years, 13 years. And we know the people who have been chronically sleep deprived, I mean, they show earlier signs of dementia and Alzheimer's. I wanted to ask you, as a neurologist, are you also seeing a combination of, metabolic disorders, like people who have diabetes? There's maybe controlled and uncontrolled, along with sleep deprivation and metabolic syndrome like high triglycerides. Are you seeing this impacting the brain at an Alzheimer's level? There are studies coming up, and in all of our Alzheimer's and most of our Parkinson's, they have this history of metabolic disorder for like 10 to 15 years, coupled with sleep deprivation. I would love your advice and your thoughts on that, please.
I think again, Luke, you're spot on. So basically, if you look at the multiple risk factors for Alzheimer's or dementias, so one thing we mentioned is sleep deprivation. Other things are the metabolic syndrome and the metabolic derangements. And there is a very strong linkage between obesity, overweight, and abdominal adiposity and risk of dementia, Alzheimer's. Multiple studies have shown. So cognition levels are lower, all the scores are lower. Even their MRI changes in the brain, in the hippocampus and temporal lobe, which are typically affected in Alzheimer's disease. So obesity is a well-known risk factor. If you look at other, what we call vascular risk factors, like say diabetes or high blood pressure and high triglycerides or high LDL cholesterol. So these are so-called vascular risk factors which increase the risk of heart attack and the stroke. They also lead to small ischemic changes. So small, if you look at the brains of people who have these diseases, even if they've not had any clinical stroke like paralytic attacks, but MRI shows those white areas, for the layman I'm telling. So basically those white areas on the MRI, they are areas where the blood supply has become less over a period of time. And that also is an independent risk factor, or we can say it is associated with a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease. So people with vascular risk factors, they not only have a higher risk of vascular dementia, but also Alzheimer's disease. So overall, the risk of dementia is higher in people who have these abnormal high blood sugar, high blood pressure, high triglycerides or LDL cholesterol, and obesity, and also sedentary lifestyle. So in this, the risk factors for vascular and the Alzheimer's or degenerative dementia are same. And if you look at the sleep, how is sleep linked to this? So it is very interesting. There are many studies which have looked at the hours of sleep and the risk of these diseases. Almost every study has shown one thing, that sleep duration less than 6 hours, or some studies sleep duration less than 5 hours, they have a high risk of overweight, obesity, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart attack, strokes, cancer, and death. Now, what is left? You can imagine. So by sleeping less, we are inviting, all these diseases to come to us. Other interesting thing to note is that it is not only sleep deprivation, even oversleeping. Now, oversleeping is sleeping for more number of hours. Luckily for us, that is not a big issue, because most people don't oversleep. It's only rarely. And there, some studies define oversleeping as more than 9 hours at night, or some say more than 10 hours. Again, similar things can be seen. So all these things, what I mentioned, these diseases are again higher in people who oversleep also. But maybe magnitude is little lesser than sleeping less. So sleeping less is a major risk factor for these risk factors, which in turn, they are linked to the higher risk of Alzheimer's and also vascular dementias.
Oh, thanks for explaining that, doctor. Right now we have introduced circadian medicine into our practice, just trying to align wake sleep cycles with sunset, sunrise, even if there's no sunrise or sunset because of cloudy weather, with natural light. And it is unbelievable how digestion, people who had indigestion and acidity, only by sleeping 2 hours before midnight and waking up with sunrise or before sunrise. We're not giving them anything. We don't medicate at all. they're not on antacids anymore, and their digestive systems are getting better, and their blood sugar levels morning fasted are showing some amount of normalcy only by aligning with the circadian rhythm. And in one of your tweets, I love that you spoke about it's not just getting the right amount of sleep. It's trying to build that consistency of a schedule. I would love for you to talk about that schedule of sleep and its impact on the human body as a whole.
Yes, yeah, that's a very important topic. Look, thanks for bringing it out. So it is not just the duration. So what you just meant, just to explain it further. So I said 7 hours. Let's assume 7 hours is the normal duration. So someone sleeps from say 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. Today morning also had a person. Doctor, you are saying, I am not sleeping normally, but I sleep 7 hours. I go to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I get up at 9 or 10. So that is 7 hours. So the time we go to sleep also should be so-called normal. And most studies have shown that the best time to initiate a sleep is between 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the most 12 midnight. So now if we initiate our sleep beyond 11 p.m. or beyond 12 midnight, and even if we sleep for 7 to 8 hours, that is not going to be beneficial as compared to somebody who starts the sleep between 9 to 11 and then sleeps for 7 to 8 hours. So sleep starting time should be, there should be a specific chronotype. In our childhood days, our parents used to say early to bed and early to rise. That was a simplistic way of saying go to bed at the right time and then get up at the right time, so that in the morning you are able to see the sunrise and birds chirping. I know many people who have never seen a sunrise. And I used to be one of them about say 6-7 years back, and I have faced those issues. So, but then people who are lucky to get up early and then go out in the early morning when the air is fresh, there are birds chirping, and then see a beautiful sunrise. People click pictures because they have not seen that kind of sunrise for ages. So but that is what we deserve. So that is one thing, to start the sleep at the right time. Other thing we also have seen in the studies is there is something called as consistent sleep schedule. Now, by that what we mean is that, okay, so it's not that one day we initiate sleep at 10 o'clock, we sleep from 10 to 5. The next day in the week we start at 12 o'clock and then 12 to 7, and the third day from 2 to 9. So we are varying the sleep onset timing by 2 hours or 4 hours also. So by having a consistent sleep schedule, what we mean is that you can vary your sleep onset timing by 30 minutes or plus minus. So if suppose somebody sleeps from 10:30 to 5:30, I'm just talking about myself, 10:30 to 5:30 is my standard time, plus minus half an hour. So I should initiate my sleep between 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. If someone initiates from 11 to 6, he or she should start between 10:30 to 11:30. So all the studies have shown that if someone doesn't vary the sleep onset timing by more than 30 minutes, they have a lesser risk of getting metabolic syndrome and other diseases as compared to somebody who varies the sleep schedule. So that is called as the sleep is not having a consistent schedule. So we should initiate the sleep at the right time, which is before 11 p.m. or definitely before 12 midnight, and then add 7 to 8 hours. And also don't vary the sleep onset time by more than 30 minutes. They are the guidelines. If you break the rule once in a while, that's fine, but not consistently. You should not break the rule.
That's amazing, because that kind of completely correlates with our data of our patients. They're reporting more uniform blood sugar levels in the morning, better blood pressure. The moment they start traveling or they move out of their sleep schedule, the eating habits have not changed. Everything is the same. Explaining that, doctor, even you brought up a brilliant point about this. So what about night shift workers? All of these people. I mean, there are some people who are forced to work in that particular role, and then of course we have the police force, we have pilots, we have cabin crew. So what are some tips that since they have to do it, how can they better optimize it for their health?
You have brought another very, very touchy topic and difficult topic. So and
I find it difficult to answer as well. So I'm actually stealing some ideas from your brain now.
Correct. And you, in your conversation, you just use the term forced. I like that. So first of all, if someone has a choice, let's say, if I have a choice to work in day shifts or night shifts, I should choose the day shift, even if I get say 5,000 rupees lesser salary in a month. Okay, so that is the first thing. So we should start from there. So always choose health over money, because finally, if you choose money, eventually you're going to spend that money on your health after 10, 15, 20 years, or whenever the bad days come. Now, if someone doesn't have a choice, you gave some examples. So nowadays, many things are 24/7, and being in the medical field, I know that, because we need to run emergencies 24/7. ICU patients are to be taken care of 24/7. So doctors, nurses, and airlines, they are flying throughout 24/7. So there are several professions, train drivers, many long distance truck drivers. So there are many jobs, even software industry, the back end support, support staff should work. So we know that many jobs require that. Now, even in that, if there's an option of having the consistent schedule, let's say if somebody can work through night shift schedule for long, and then days he has free, that is still better than somebody who's having shifting in the schedule. So 1 week night, 1 week afternoon, 1 week morning. So there the body doesn't get used to it. So the circadian rhythm, as you mentioned, it gets totally confused and very difficult for that kind of person to have a normal and healthy life. So best is have a day shift work. If not, then have only night shift work. And then in the worst scenario, have this kind of varying sleep schedules. Now, few things they can do. See, basically the night shift, one is the circadian rhythm disturbance, which causes health issues. Other things are our lifestyle habits. Many times people who work in the night shifts or they feel they are stressed or whatever, they feel lonely because they don't see the natural sunlight, they don't meet many of the family people. By the time they come home, kids are already asleep or whatever, many things happen, wife is asleep, husband is asleep. So they start having junk food, they start snacking on something which is not healthy, they may start smoking. The alcohol abuse also is more in those shift workers. So one thing people can do is that try to avoid this and always carry some health, because at night time, daytime we have many options. If I feel hungry at 5, I can see many food joints open which will have healthy and unhealthy options also. Night options are few. And generally, if you see around the software companies, which being in Hyderabad, I see that almost yesterday itself, I saw, most of the joints near those, they're all selling unhealthy snacks. So carry some healthy snacks with you and snack on them, because that can take care of few, health hazards. And then second thing is, because daytime is meant for sleep, don't schedule any, visits or any meeting friends, because your friends may be having day shift duty, and so for them they may be free at a time when you should be sleeping, because you have worked in the nights, you need to sleep at daytime. So keep the days for sleeping. So at least if someone cannot sleep at night, if they can get the 7 hours sleep during daytime, it can compensate partly. And then one more thing I want to say is that regarding the monophasic versus biphasic sleep. Now, some people cannot complete the entire 7 hours quota in one go at night. So some people have shifts. I know that they start at some 6 p.m. and then go until say 2 or 3, like that, and then they get 2-3 hours in the morning. Then they have to get ready, get their kids ready for school and things like that. So it is still better to complete the sleep in 2 quotas or 2 installments rather than miss the sleep completely. So if you cannot get the entire sleep in one go at night or day, split that. It's completely fine to split into 2 parts, and then but be consistent so that you'll get used to it. So that's all I can say. But I feel sorry for those employees who have to routinely work night shift for decades together. And at the earliest possible time, people say that once you become senior, you may have more options. Then possibly at that time you could try to shift to day shift duties if possible. Always be on the lookout, for that, for the change.
I love your suggestions. They're practical, they're easy, taking into consideration real life problems that actually exist and roles that people have to play. But I love your suggestions, doctor. Another thing that we're noticing is the screen time. I know one is it's affecting adults, but children, young children, we're actually seeing neurological issues happening with them. During the COVID, we actually saw a lot of children put into a bucket of near spectrum autism. And when parents brought them to us for a holistic kind of an analysis, and they were going to start the treatment, we had children who were looking at iPads and gadgets for 9 hours a day, and a lot of them were also doing it in dark rooms without natural light around them. And so we were in this situation where we told a parent that, listen, if you listen to us for 2 weeks, and we actually have some documented cases of this, take away the gadget from your child. It's a decision that will benefit them for the rest of their life. Spectrums actually change, doctor. This is the impact of screen time that we've seen on the brain. And the point is, I would love for your message to come out, because we have, millions of people going to be watching this, and I love your stance of calling a spade a spade. Today, a lot of people find ways and never give the direct answer, although the direct answer is, hey, some things are, you don't do it or you do it, reduce it, stop it completely. What's your advice to parents out there? Because children are like adults are addicted. So how can we expect children to listen? So when it comes to screen time and the damage it's doing, it doesn't matter if it's social media, if it's YouTube, but screen time, the impact on their brains at this age and how it can even affect them hormonally and neurologically as they grow up, to be young citizens. Yeah.
I think again, look, it's a very, very contemporary and timely topic that you brought in. And definitely excessive screen usage or spending excessive time on the screen has multiple hazards. And we look at it, it can have ill effects on the vision, on the brain, mind, and also the overall metabolic health. So they are the four areas in which we can consider. So the first thing is, what is normal? So the lesser the better,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
more the worse. So there is
Mhm.
nobody can say, okay, fine, 1 hour is the best or 3 hours is the best. So we have to minimize the usage. Now, and we cannot say, take away, snatch the phone or snatch the iPad and tell the child, okay, fine, nothing for you. It is not possible in today's world. So let us accept that the screen is needed for any device because many useful things also happen on the screen. In fact, our presentation and many things, social media is, so we have many good things also. So we need to strike a balance. We look at that, what is the ideal thing. So first, I'll focus on what are the ill effects of excessive screen time. So if you look at just the eyes, vision itself, so there have been few cases of what is called as smartphone vision syndrome, where people scroll or look at the smartphones in complete darkness. And there was a report published in NEJM also, which is our prestigious medical journal, New England Journal of Medicine. A case report had come. A woman suddenly turned blind, and she was shocked. And they've given the mechanism how it happens. So in this, podcast, I will not go into that. But there is a
Mhm.
risk of temporary loss of vision. It is not permanent, but that also can be very, very alarming for people if you are scrolling mobile phones in complete darkness. And also, if somebody is using mobile phones or screens for a long time, again, this something called as eye fatigue can set in, and that can affect eye muscles get weak, and there can be problem in vision and fixation also. So for that, they say something called as 20-20-20 rule, where every 20 minutes take a 20-second break and look at something that is 20 feet away. So when I'm
Right.
looking at the screen, just gaze, somewhere else for 20 seconds and then come back. So that is called 20-20-20 rule. This is a T20 World Cup just happened. So 20-20-20, there is a usage of screen also. And
Nice one.
safeguard the vision. And few reports I saw during COVID time when children suddenly they became, homebound and started looking at the screens for longer time. Many schools, most schools were online. So
Yeah.
there are few reports of increased risk of myopia. So myopia is something, which is short sight, commonly seen in children. Like I'm also a myopic, where we can see the near objects. Far objects we cannot see clearly. So people who spend more time on the screen, they had a higher risk of myopia. So few reports I saw from China and few other countries also. And when I spoke to my ophthalmologist, they said, yes, we have seen an increase. Now that is
Mhm.
only association. We cannot confirm the cause and effect relationship. So that's about the eyes. And but there is no risk of any permanent damage on the eyesight because of screen usage so far. There is no evidence for that. Now then I said effect on the brain. So on the brain, what happens is if you look at this, what happens with this mindless scrolling is that children feel that they're in full control of the device because at will, suppose they're watching YouTube video, if they don't like it, they can stop it, they can make it move fast, they can change it, so that gives them full control. So in the real life, there's no such control because we have parents who can instruct, there are teachers who can instruct, elder siblings can give instructions. So when children face with the real world, they see that nobody is listening to them. They may want something. The father will say, no, you can't have this. Or the teacher will say, you can't have it. But on the social media, on the YouTube and the Instagram and Facebook, they are in full control. So this, they lose the total actual sense. What is the reality? In reality, what we keep doing on the social media with full control, it is not possible in the real life. And that can give them adjustment issues. They can become irritable, and so some kind of psychiatric and mental problems can happen because of that. Other problem I find is the focus and concentration, because if you are just because watching something, we don't need to use the brain, just mindlessly they're scrolling. And then if you are focused, suppose they open the social media or something, internet, for once learning about a specific thing. Suppose you want to study about Peru or some country, some culture, some geography, like read about Everest, and then you do that and then you close it. That is good. But most children who are distracted, what happens is they start with one After half an hour, there is no link. So they keep shifting and changing. So that loses, makes them lose their attention and focus. And when they actually start studying, the same tendency repeats. They start with one chapter, then they're in the next one, then the next one, and nothing registers in the brain. Because to have a good memory, one needs to focus, one needs to pay attention. So that is another thing we found. So learning disabilities, problems with learning, those things are more interpersonal. Already I mentioned, because this thing of self-control is there, but real life that is not there. And then the metabolic, because spending more time on the screen also means the children are sedentary. And
Yeah.
if they're sedentary, then the risk of being overweight, obesity, high cholesterol, we have seen all that. Pre-diabetes, diabetes. If you look at the risk in now even preschool, school, and adolescents, it has gone up every decade. The incidents are going up, and now we have started seeing cases of heart attacks and strokes also in teenage. Now it is not because of any congenital problems, but they're all traditional risk factors. What we see in adults have started happening in kids also. So these are the various spectrum of problems that happen because of excessive screen usage. Now we cannot just tell children that okay, we'll shut down the internet Wi-Fi, we snatch the mobile phone and lock in the cupboard. We have to tell them what they can do. So
Hmm.
we have to give them suggestions. So we should develop their hobbies in, say, painting or singing or playing an instrument, which can be done at home. They're like in our days, we were at home and we used to play caroms and chess.
Yeah.
When those things, people have lost those things now when they play only video games. So there are some things which can be done without the use of device, and we have to inculcate and make them develop hobbies in that. And also outdoor. So outdoor, they should have developed some sport, like say basketball, whatever can be done feasibly around their locality. So one outdoor sport. So unless they have something, children have a lot of energy. We cannot just put them, okay, just sit quietly and then open your textbooks and read. They cannot do that always. So we have to also give them suggestions and alternatives what they should do. And as you mentioned, adults also are addicted. So being elder in the family, as parents and older siblings, we have to set an example. We
Yeah.
also should be disciplined, and then they'll copy us.
True. Absolutely. I'll give you a break, Doctor. I can see you put your heart and soul into every answer. It just shows your passion about this whole subject. So tell me about you. What do you do for your health holistically? What's your routine like? I know you're so busy seeing so many patients. Tell us about your routine, because then you'll be an inspiration to people who say, hey, I don't have time.
Yeah, see, I'll just briefly tell about my, the problems I face. It is not some I want to, praise myself, but it may help people who are facing similar issues. So
Please. Yeah.
I suffer from a condition what is called ankylosing spondylitis. Now, for the layman out there, it's a disease which causes severe arthritis or joint pains affecting the back and the spine. And also because it's a chronic disease and long-term disease, and there is no specific cure. So, and it started for me when I was 16. So, which hampers mobility and movements. And so basically, from class 10th onwards, I became sedentary. And by plus two, I was weighing about 82 kgs. And by the time I had finished my neurology residency, I was 100 kgs. So that was because the pain hampered my movements. And
Mhm.
then also I was overeating. I should not deny that I was a foodie. And then because not a single chapter in my medical curriculum, there is no chapter on nutrition in MBBS, MD, and DM. So I got all the 3 degrees without reading a single chapter on nutrition. And it was not told to me that this is what is healthy, this is what is unhealthy, and wherever it is there also, it was not accurate. I realized that. So they only spoke about don't have fats, fatty foods are good, don't have chicken, mutton, and those non-veg food is not good. And my
Mhm.
seniors also, I heard my senior doctors telling the same thing to their patients, which was not accurate. So I realized that now, when I myself had to read and then find out what is healthy and what is not healthy. So because of combination of my disease, ankylosing spondylitis, and sedentary lifestyle and unhealthy eating, I put on a lot of weight and became 100 kgs. And this was about say 5 or 6, 7, 8 years back. Then I realized, then I started looking at, what are the things that can be done. So regarding spondylitis, ankylosing spondylitis, what I found is that physical activity actually is one of the things that can reduce the intensity of pain. So,
Mhm.
and I found that when I used to start moving, then my pain used to reduce after 5 or 10 minutes. First 5-10 minutes will be very painful. After that, pain will become less, and then after half an hour, I don't even know that pain is there. So I started long walks at that time. This is one of the physical activities I started. Also joined gym, started doing some strength training, and I found that my pain score and pain levels had gone down. And then by then already I had started, I cut down most of the junks like samosas and sweets and many things and soft drinks. So I was having these three things I cut down and reduced my carbohydrates, and then also I started taking more protein. So that's the change I made. Another thing, I used to love working and I was doing research, also writing papers. So seeing patients till 8:39 and then from up to 11, 12, 12:30, I was writing research papers. So I only had 5 hours to sleep. So I was not
Mm.
sleeping adequately also. That was compounding my problem. So then I said, no, let me forego research papers. I have already written 123 or more than 100 papers by then. So I can take a break. And then, so I stopped writing research papers at night and then started sleeping for 7 hours. And then about 4 years back, in the lockdown, I had very few patients because every lockdown, so patient numbers reduced. And that's when I developed a new hobby of running.
Oh,
From,
wow.
from
Okay.
no one, from couch potato, I became a runner. And
Wow.
you'll be happy to note that in the last 3.5 years, I have run 145 half marathons. Okay.
Wow.
And so a person who was weighing 100 kgs, I could walk, I could run, and and my best timing this year is 1 hour and 53 minutes for 21 kilometers. And I have finished 10 kilometers several times in less than 60 minutes, and best timing is 43 minutes. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go for that. But what I want to highlight here is that if somebody is totally sedentary until 40s also, weighing about 100 kgs and has ankylosing spondylitis, still, if you decide and then gradually, of course, under the guidance of your physician, nutritionist, and fitness trainer, you could adopt a healthy lifestyle. And then all these things have helped me. Overall, I feel much better. My resting heart rate from 72 dropped down to 42 beats per minute. Blood
Wow.
pressure from say 140, 90, now it's 110, 70, 160, like that. HbA1c had gone up to 6, now it's 4.8, 4.9. Triglycerides were 300 back then. Now it's my HDL is more than my triglycerides, so the ratio is less than 1.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is all the parameters improved, and so basically I do brisk walking now, 3 to 4 days, 5 days in a week, and
Mhm.
then 3 days in a week I do strength training. That's my routine now, and of course healthy food, and I ensure that I get at least 7 hours of sleep. So all this keep me in a good shape, and I feel energetic now.
That's amazing. I love your story. So much of honesty in it. I'm kind of jealous of your resting heart rate, doctor. 42. That's like pro athlete level, huh? That's pro athlete. I have a benchmark. I'm at 50, and I'm going to see how I can come down lower. But that's inspirational.
No, I think
Fantastic stuff.
anything lower is, I think anything around 50, 50 is not bad at all. 50 is excellent. You're in the top 1% of the world population already.
No, but I'm already saying if you can do it, why can't I be at 42? So that
Definitely,
competitive
definitely.
part in my mind is like kicked off now.
Yeah,
No, but thank
definitely.
you for sharing that. This is so inspirational. I mean, because, I come across people all the time who blame their jobs and their nature. And I understand everyone has a different life. But at the end of the day, we can't say all pilots are sick. Some are, some are not. We can't say all cabin crew is sick. Some are, some are not. We can't say all CEOs are sick. Everyone says, I don't have time. There are some super fit CEOs and some who aren't. At the end of the day, I guess it's the choices that we make. And I like what you said. It's not about 1 hour. It's about just do something. Something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
I love your whole thought process on that. So, doctor, you spoke about your lifestyle. You spoke about your sleep. I've always had this dream. It's a dream. It may not be a dream anymore, but I just wanted to run this by you and leave a thought in your head. People in the country look up to doctors. Okay, and they should look up to doctors. There's a matter of life and death and all of that stuff. And I'll be honest with you, in every field of work, there are good doctors, bad doctors, good nutritionists, bad nutritionists, good healers, bad healers, all of that stuff. We have the spectrum of both, in our world. But I'm saying when people listen and look up to doctors in such a powerful way in our country, what if what you say is prescribed? Now, I understand doctors have sometimes 2 or 3 minutes with a patient, but imagine a doctor prescribing a medicine and I've even timed this, it takes less than 12 seconds to say, hey, change the way you eat. I want you to exercise. I want you to sleep, look after your stress levels. Imagine that coming. I'm not even saying it has to be, written down, because there are gray areas with the law and suing and all of that stuff. But imagine people coming back and saying, because I remember that one patient of yours saying, Luke, this doctor told me to sleep deeply, and that awe on her face, and she started to sleep better. She started to follow that instruction because you said it. Now, just imagine, I mean, in your scope of work and status, I mean, that someday I would hope this becomes a dream where all doctors just say, hey, listen, change the way you eat. I know many are doing it. Many are doing it. But imagine patients who don't know too much about these things and blindly think. There are communities just believe, take a pill and that's it. I don't need to do anything else. So I'm sharing that dream with you, because I always think that, wow, it could actually change healthcare in maybe not the whole system, but 10%, which is huge in a population like what we have, because you're doing it in your own way, doctor. You're prescribing lifestyle to people. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a very, very interesting and exciting thought which you are sharing. I'll tell you from the doctor's perspective. So when we all were growing up as a child, we always thought the doctor is, somebody close to God, and we gave them respect, just like how we respect our parents, teachers, and doctors. We all kept in the same bracket. So it is just a profession. We all know that doctor is just a profession, like a lawyer, like a software engineer. There's no difference, and that is what West does it. But in our culture, in our society, doctors are kept at a slightly higher level. I'm not feeling proud of that. I'm just saying how people feel. And because this is my 30th, 31st year as a doctor. So when I saw my first patient, it was Feb 1st, 1994. Now we're in 2024, July. So I have finished more than 30 years. So I have a lot of experience about dealing with people. So people even ask us, take their our advice to find a match for their daughters. So if we have been seeing their parents, they are our patients. So they say, doctor, my daughter is now about to get married. So you can see such a personal thing, which they did not. But the kind of respect they have for the doctors, out of their respect, they ask us. It's not that we are very good in finding a match. So they discuss even their personal problems, and they feel that we can provide a solution. And as you mentioned, so when I say, I means when a doctor says, eat this, that has a more value than when a nutritionist says.
Absolutely.
Even a nutritionist is more qualified than a doctor to talk about diet. But if a nutritionist says something, they still come to us, doctor, such and such nutritionist or dietitian has told me to eat this. Do you accept? Do you agree with that? So it is like, so being a doctor puts us in a position where we can influence the life of a person much more. Whether we deserve it or not, that is besides the question. But people take our words, much more valuable. So alcohol is bad. So many wives, almost every wife, of a husband who drinks, they request us, doctor, please tell him not to drink. So the husband, the person knows that alcohol is bad. The wife also knows that it is bad. So wife has told him n number of times. So, but she expects that when a doctor says this, that alcohol is bad for your health, he will quit, he'll abstain. Smoking is bad, doctor, he smokes still. You told last time to reduce, he is reduced, but still smoking 2 or 3. You tell him again not to smoke. So they don't. So they know, and they know that if a doctor says these things, it will the patient will register, and they'll follow more religiously rather than we not telling. And many times, because patients don't, sometimes they may not even tell us. So it is our duty also, and the results are more. If I just, even I may have been also a doctor, about a similar doctor 10 years back, when I was only writing pills and sending them. A pill can cure a disease or make the disease better, but the chance of complete improvement is much lesser, and they can relapse back. And also and what is called as pill burden. So we know that if a diabetic is relying totally on the medications, the number of pills, the mg required, dosage required may be much higher. If he goes on to carbohydrate restriction and exercise and the good sleep, the number of medicines may be reduced. And now we talk about type 2 diabetes remission, and so those things are there. It is a reality now. We know that things like intermittent fasting, carbohydrate restriction, we have various strategies. The doctors and nutritionists can discuss with them. So they are real things. So it is our duty to inform patients just 3 things. So if we have to spend 1 minute each, so 1 minute for sleep, 1 minute for diet, 1 minute for physical activity, and then spend 1 or 2 minutes for the. So it will not take us. I realize that it doesn't take more. There are some people who require more time also, but it is still worthwhile, because when we educate that, And if he or she sees a success, he's going to educate 4 or 5 more people. So it has a cascading effect. And Twitter, I was not active on Twitter more than 3 years back. So then I thought, it is my duty also to give to the public and tell them something which I cannot do in my clinical practice, because I can see only n number of people in my clinic.
True.
In a
Yeah.
social media, the access can be much more, and that has happened. So almost every day I get at least 5 to 10 people messaging me or telling me in some manner. Sometimes people meet me on the way. Today on the way, 2 people have met me. Doctor, I follow you on the Twitter, and that has helped me. One lady who's 65-year-old, she says, Doctor, every day morning I wait for your tweet. And then I incorporate that in my life, and I'm much better now. She's a single woman, she's not married, and still very active. And she says, I look forward to that. So there are people who benefit. So so doctors should not feel that the time is wasted. Many times, if they
Yes.
don't understand the importance, they feel, what's the point of telling diet, exercise, and sleep? It's a waste of time. As a doctor, I should only write medicines and talk about medicines, talk about surgery. But no, I think time spent on these aspects, they are more valuable, and then it can prevent diseases. Because see, as a doctor now, as always hoping for a day when the number of patients I see will reduce.
Less. Yeah.
And but now, see, when I joined this hospital, I was one of the 3 neurologists. Now there are 9 neurologists, so 6 more neurologists. But still, my number of patients are going up more. So there are more and more number of hospitals opening, more number of doctors coming out, and still the hospitals have more number of patients. So we are not able to prevent diseases. If we can work on that, and also a good government, we tell some government is good. Why? Because they opened so many hospitals, they employed so many doctors. So we say such a government is good. I say no. A
Mhm.
government can be good, or something organization can be good if you can reduce the number of patients. So provide the parks, provide the cycling tracks, provide the jogging tracks, reduce the air
Food chain.
pollution, which is happening.
Yeah.
So we can reduce the diseases. So you're not doing anything to reduce diseases. So obviously we'll need more. You're promoting alcohol. We saw in
Yeah.
lockdown time, all shops closed, but alcohol shops were kept open. People are queuing up there because they want to earn some excise duty. So our
Mhm.
priorities are not correct. Our
Very
means
true.
everybody. We can't blame only the government, even people. So we are all part of the same thing. So I
Absolutely.
agree
Yeah.
fully with you that it is our duty to spend time, and it will have multiplier effect.
Yeah. No, no, I think that's amazing. Thank you, because I would always have this dream, and I'm on the Fit India movement. I'm in the ambassador for lifestyle for Prime Minister's Fit India movement, and I've been trying to drive that as well. That how can we get people, because you all have position of power and for the right reasons. Because in our country, I really think that people should have faith, and there's good faith and there's blind faith, two different things. But if you have not you, if people have a position of power, a voice, they should use it for the right ways. Like you spoke about alcohol. I'm dead against celebrities advertising pan masala and alcohol. And these are positions of power, and children are watching these ads. And then at the same time, we're talking about health, and we're talking about prevention and better education. So I'm absolutely with you on this point. Doctor, I mean, this has been such an amazing, amazing session, such an electrifying session. I just want to appreciate your honesty and your passion with which you talk. And no wonder your tweets are so, so powerful. I would have gone on because I saw that beautiful tweet of yours that made me read it a couple of times, where you spoke about cholesterol and you spoke about LPA. And no one talks about these things. And I was like, wow, I'm going to discuss it with you at some point. But I think maybe people are going to love this podcast, and probably we reach out to you for a sequel to this amazing podcast. But before I let you go, Doctor, given your wisdom, your own experience, your journey, the amount of cases that you see every day, if you had the whole country watching you right now, what are those one or two tips or that advice that you would give people when it comes to their neurological health and their overall life?
See, life is simple, and being healthy also is simple. And what I realize is that, as I mentioned, there are 3 pillars. So we have to prioritize our sleep. Whatever happens, we can lose some friends, because nowadays late night parties and discos and pubs, they are very popular. But let it be. Let us lose some friends. But strictly say anything beyond 11 p.m., please excuse me. And then, and even if you go for those parties, just mark your attendance, presence, and then come back. Have your dinner at home and then go. Because early dinner also is important. I realized that. I was having
True.
10:30 dinner. So one is the, don't compromise on the sleep. Of course, if you are traveling and things like that, occasionally it can happen, but as a routine, don't compromise. Second thing is the 1 hour time for the exercise. And I always tell people, see, there are 24 hours in a day. 1 hour is only 4% of your daily time. That's all it is. 1 into 24, 4 into 24 is 96. So less than 5% of your time is required. If you spend 1 hour for working out, don't chase some marathon or some records. Do something which you like, because we need to sustain for long. And the simplest thing is brisk walking. Most of us can do.
Yeah.
We have to find a place to do it. I don't advise going on the main roads because it is risky. But find a safe place and then do it. Even if no safe place inside the home, also it can be done. My
Yeah.
room, OP room, is not very big, but there are days post lunch I have done that, and then almost 5,000 steps can be done in this small room. Okay, with the Garmin watch, I have tracked. It is possible. So that's not an excuse that there is no place to walk. Inside your own room, you can walk. Now that is one thing. So some kind of physical activity, and means walking plus strength training. Strength training also, we don't need a gym. You can do at home. Ask their YouTube videos, fitness trainers, do something to preserve the muscle, because sarcopenia is something which hits everyone, whether in 30s or 40s or afterwards, and that will cause many problems in the old age, whether it's arthritis or falls, or many things can happen, and even the poor sugar control, all those things happen. So exercise means combination of these two. The third point is the diet. Our diets are traditionally carbohydrate rich, and people always say, my grandmother ate only rice 3 times a day. She lived up to 98 years. Why are you telling me to change that? They had a different lifestyle. My grandfather, he never even saw a cycle. So he was a farmer. He went to school. He never went to school. My father himself, he went to school by walking for 10 kilometers every day till his class 10th. And he never had a car, till he came almost on the verge of retirement. So their lives were different. They were able to burn those calories. Our lives are sedentary. So we cannot have carbohydrate heavy diet. So I think there are three things in a nutshell which can prevent most of the diseases. And of course, we know the ill effects of smoking and alcohol. No amount of alcohol is good or safe for health. See, alcohol does not reduce the heart attack. If it did, all the guidelines of American cardiology or heart, they will say that please drink wine to reduce. No guidelines state that. Always they will say avoid. If you cannot, then minimize. So people, and smoking also, same thing goes. And if as you said, in initial introduction also, so healthy lifestyle, by incorporating all these three, it is not only good for your heart or one body, but the entire body. This thing. So the body as a whole. See, a healthy lifestyle keeps the brain healthy, heart healthy, liver healthy, kidneys healthy. It's not that we have to do something different for kidneys, something different for the liver, something for the heart. These three will take care of everything.
This is amazing. The last 1 hour has been electrifying. I finished my patients by about 5 o'clock today, and then we had this podcast, and now I can just say it's a day well ended. I just feel so happy. So happy. It's amazing. Continue the great work you're doing. We're going to reach out to you for a sequel too at some point. It'll be because the audience wants you back. And of course, I want you back as well. But Doctor, continue the great work. I think the world needs this level of honesty and this level of passion in every field, whether it's medicine, whether it's engineering, whether it's the food industry and the food chain, the government, of course, without saying. But I think you've inspired. I'm so inspired with what you've spoken about with so much of passion and honesty. So thank you so much for your time today, Doctor. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luke. And I also enjoyed this 1 hour or whatever around that time. So it was my pleasure to interact with you. And I learned from you, and I hope you continue to do that good work that you are also doing. So,
thank you.
So that more and more people can benefit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Have a beautiful evening. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more. We're going to continue our journey, learning, sharing, and evolving.